Bama is not dead. In fact, the tide is dangerous in the college football playoff. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. And I'm going to put a spin on what we just witnessed, and then we're going to talk Indiana, Alabama, and invite your calls as well. So let's let this sink in. Let this really sink in what Alabama accomplished tonight. And we do appreciate you being here. And thank you for your patience as I was producing our Alabama-Oklahoma instant analysis video. So leave those comments and questions there in the chat. You've got me all night if you'd like me to sit here and talk college football with you. And of course, we got 3 games on Saturday. Texas A&M and Miami would seem to be the most interesting. And we had a heck of a ball game tonight. All sorts of people dismiss this game as like we know it's going to be close, or it should be close, but it's not going to be much of a game. It's not going to be exciting. The real game is going to be Texas A&M and Miami. And I discounted that completely. I'm not saying that Texas A&M and Miami won't be the best game, but it's going to have to go some to pass this one. So again, I'm not going to go on and on and on. I want to hear from you. So leave the comments, questions, and give me a call. But just think about Alabama's situation. They've not played well for 4 or 5 weeks. They were trounced by Georgia. Their passing game, which has been the entire offense because they've had no running game. They've been ranked about 100th in the country in rushing the entire season, and then had injuries to their top 2 backs near the end of this season, Jam Miller and Daniel Hill. And then their quarterback, who is playing like a Heisman winner mid-season, has basically had a deer in headlights look because his pass protection is broken down. He has no running game, and he has had the yips for a few weeks. He has not been throwing the ball well. So the one thing that they've had going for them when they look like one of the best teams in the country is they had elite receiver play. Josh Cuevas, a tight end, who's been injured and out. And even their one calling card has been a disaster, throwing the football downfield. Okay, so no confidence coming into this one. Seemingly, you would think they have no confidence, but there's no way that they can win a game like this on the road down 17-0 with no confidence. So you talk about resilience. This team has not played well. They got trashed by Georgia. They got everyone criticizing them, saying that they shouldn't be in the playoff. They've got a coach who's being rumored to go to another job, and they're down 17-0, playing one of the best defenses in the country on the road, a team that they've already lost to, and they come back and win. That was pretty impressive. All right, so Bama, they move on. Again, comments, questions, we've got the link there in the chat. Please give me a call. We're going to start out with our buddy Alec Kieser to talk some Indiana and Alabama. Who would have thunk when this whole deal was set up a couple years ago that a 12-team playoff would include Indiana playing Alabama and that Indiana would be the number 1 seed in the country? But certainly, of course, they've earned it. Alec, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Really entertaining football game, first of all, so that was pretty exciting. If you told 2019 Alec that Kalen DeBoer and Indiana were going to be in a 12-team playoff in 2025, I probably would have believed you. If you told me we were going to be playing Kalen DeBoer and we were going to be the 1 seed, I'm not sure I would have believed you. I'm also not sure if I would have believed you. You would told me we were playing Alabama like yesterday. I was pretty convinced Oklahoma was going to win this football game. I felt pretty validated in the first, couple plays of the football game. Oklahoma went up big early, and it was sloppy, very, very sloppy football game, but unbelievably impressive from Alabama. I came away with the same takeaways as you did. I was really impressed, and I'm excited. That's kind of my biggest takeaway so far. Just I'm excited. But I thought I was after watching a full season of Indiana play football, after watching the Big Ten championship and like rewatching that game a couple of times, to go from that level of football, where the technical level and there's not that there weren't penalties in the Indiana Ohio State game that weren't being called, but the lack of busted coverages in the Big Ten championship versus like what was going on in this playoff game was it was a stark difference in football, but fun football game nonetheless.
Folks, this is the time to lock in on our Indiana show in our Hoosiers channel with Alec and Bradley right here at the Voice of College Football. So we will leave that link in the chat over the next few minutes because they show up every Tuesday to talk Indiana football with you, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, we're talking about the number one team in the country, and they're playing Alabama in the Rose Bowl. How could it get much better than that? So again, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time with Alec and with Bradley. Again, the link's going to be in the chat. And of course, they're going to do post game as well. So based on what you saw out of Bama versus what you know of Indiana, I'll go both sides of it. The most obvious would be, okay, where do you think Indiana can take advantage? And then on the other side, do you think there are possibilities where Alabama has some type of an edge that they can take advantage of the Hoosiers?
Well, I thought I still don't really know how to think of this football game, right? Because Oklahoma's up 17-0. They're at home. They have the crowd. There's the drop punt and the pick six with in their own right are each like ridiculous momentum swings. To have those happen in the same game pretty much at the same time is insane. So Alabama gets to wipe the slate clean. If Alabama spots Indiana 17 points, that football game doesn't look like that. Indiana's not going to give you that many bites at the apple. The most shocking thing I think I saw from this football game was just the amount of plays that Oklahoma and especially Alabama left on the table. Like, I thought Alabama was both dead in the water, and you could also argue they probably should have scored 50 in this game as well. Like, those receivers do not help out Ty Simpson at all. So I think if you're looking at where Alabama can give Indiana problems, Simpson's legit. That dude's ridiculous. He's phenomenal. And his ball placement and accuracy when he's throwing the ball down the field is really impressive. The weird part is when like it's the easier throws and almost like the gimme plays where they make look so difficult sometimes. But it's Alabama. You saw it was Jermaine, number 5, the receiver. Like, it's not like that he had a huge game, but the play he made going up over the Oklahoma defender, catching the ball and bringing it back over the dude's helmet before he hit the ground. Like, there's just not many like athletes who can make that play like that, period. So that's where Alabama has an advantage. But like, Alabama's, I guess, superpower in this Kalen DeBoer era is their offensive scheme. And what does this Kurt Cignetti team do really well? This Bryant Haynes defense do really well is they watch a ton of film, they understand your tendencies, and they're going to make you beat them by death by 1,000 cuts. And like, we watched Ohio State, a team with much more talent with a better offensive line, not be able to move the football against Indiana. So like, it's how good is Oklahoma's defense supposed to be? Because again, like, I don't know how to factor the home crowd and the defense into that versus like how much the momentum swung. So I think I'm going to need a couple of days to like really gather my thoughts on what the hell happened in the first half of this football game. But it's hard not to think of those two teams, Alabama and Oklahoma, I'm talking, are very similar levels of football team, and the Indiana is just a tier above those guys. So something that Brad, like my co-host on the Indiana channel, has been talking about is like, it's Alabama. They're unbelievably talented. They can beat anybody on any day, and it doesn't matter what they look like when they step on the field. They're going to be dangerous. That was kind of my biggest takeaway from watching this football game is like, yeah, Alabama's going to get their opportunities. They're going to have their bites at the apple. It's like, am I confident in what Indiana does really well as a football team? Yes, and that's why I'm excited for the matchup ultimately. But it's hard
really crazy
with Indiana
that
or with Bama.
It's really crazy, Alec, that if you saw the first game between these two teams and you looked at the box score. So I watched the first game and then obviously watched tonight. Basically the same. It was the same storyline and the same occurrence of the game, but it flipped. Where in the first game, Alabama doubled up Oklahoma in yardage. Oklahoma made all the special teams plays. They had the +2 in turnovers. They had a pick six. They had a long punt return, 50-yard punt return that set up a score. They hit the hidden yardage. Again, Alabama had over 400 yards. Oklahoma barely had 200. Oklahoma wins on a field goal because their kicker is one of the best in the country. Shoot, I just voted him first team All-American. He had hit 8 straight from 50 plus. He had hit 24 straight, period. He misses. In the first game, the Alabama kicker missed from 36. Alabama doubled up Oklahoma in yardage. Oklahoma had all those plays we just talked about, the hidden yardage plays and the turnovers. In this game, Alabama gets the pick six. Alabama gets the benefit of the missed field goal. I looked at the yardage. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't quite 2-1, but Oklahoma led in yardage like 360 to 200. It was a complete flip of the stats and the plays that made up for the stats not being there.
I completely agree with that sentiment. And I caught Jackson and Jeffrey on the Alabama Voice of College Football channel, and those guys were fired up. They were giving it to the Michigan guys, and the Michigan guys are actually live right now too. And those TJ and John over there were fired up too, but for different reasons, obviously. But the Alabama guys were talking about exactly what you just said. It was pretty much a carbon copy of the first game, except just reverse the roles. The road team, for whatever reason, in this matchup this year, it seems like it has the upper hand. I think it's funny, like I said, like on Tuesday when we recorded, I was pretty confident Oklahoma was going to win this football game, but later in the week somebody put out that stat of like the last time Alabama had lost to the same opponent in the same season twice was like in the 1800s or something crazy like that. And so it's
Some
like,
school we've never heard of. Yeah, I saw
yeah.
that. It was like a junior college or
What do
something.
you make of, like, is it just that these teams, like, and because I don't spend the entire season watching the SEC. So is it just like the Alabamas, the Oklahomas, these teams can just leave plays out on the table? Like there's busted coverages left and right. The receivers drop passes. Like Ty Simpson has one of the biggest like that dude should be much more of an asshole on the field than he is. Like it is absolutely insane. Those guys don't help him at all. So like, was this just business as usual in the SEC, and it's just like that you take the good with the bad, or was this just playoff nerves, or what do you think that was?
I think if you would look at most rankings, Alabama would have like a top 5 to 8 wide receiver core in the country with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. They're both going to be NFL players for sure. Ryan Williams is a freak, although he didn't show up in this game. I don't remember him doing much of anything. And Josh Cuevas, who's not been playing, but is a tight end. And then the guy that made all the plays is a true freshman,
He was
Lotier Brooks, and he was the guy making all
unbelievably
the plays. Yeah.
impressive.
So that's all I'll say about the wide receiver core in regards to their reputation.
Yeah, I was shocked at how sloppy the play was. But it's also like that. That's what the talent allows you to do. It allows you to make those mistakes. I was surprised at how poorly Mateer's ability to throw. Like Mateer couldn't throw the football. He couldn't grip the football. It was very clear that
Yeah.
at least early in the game, he wasn't able to like squeeze it with his thumb, and everything was flying up and to the right. Like I'm not an expert at throwing the football right, but I've thrown a baseball before. Like I've thrown the football in the backyard. Like when the ball is sailing up into the right like that, the guy couldn't throw a pass past 15 yards. It kind of seemed like once Womack and Alabama realized they could just blitz him, the game completely flipped. But it
Yeah.
was,
So you're
you got to be
probably aware
disappointed
he
if you're
hurt his
Oklahoma.
thumb early in the season. I apologize, Alec. I think we've got a bit of a lag, so I stepped on you a few times. But you're probably aware Mateer hurt his thumb early in the season. So it's apparently better, maybe not completely, but to where it's workable. And that really affected his throwing. He looked really bad. You know, Herb Street was commenting early in the game that he looked a lot better. And I thought, I don't think he looks
He did
that
not
much
have his
better.
fastball tonight.
He missed a wide, like crazy wide open touchdown pass on the first or second drive of the game. And then he sailed a few other ones that were just, yeah, like you said, they weren't just poorly thrown in regards to being inaccurate. The ball was not thrown well. Yeah, I don't know if he just has a strange delivery to begin with as well, but yeah, it's not pretty. He is not the prettiest of quarterbacks out there throwing the ball. But and then I also think, okay, if you've got a thumb injury and you're working around that for half the season, trying to adjust your motion so you can somehow throw fairly effectively, and then your thumb's better, is it still in your head, or have you kind of temporarily screwed up your throwing motion somewhat? You know, do those things possibly have an effect.
Yeah. And then it's just like for that made Oklahoma one-dimensional. And once Alabama realized they couldn't throw the ball, it was like, well, you're not going to run the ball on us either. And then for Alabama, their run game, I guess, kind of showed up, but they only ran for like 40 yards. It's like if they don't make a
That was
couple
a
of
good
those
game
circus
for them.
matches, like, yeah, I guess that is a good game for them. And so it's like I think a lot of the SEC fans, especially obviously the Alabama fans, because they're going to be super confident coming out of this one, are going to look at the final score, look at the fact that they walked into Oklahoma and put up a good number, and be, I don't want to say overconfident, but I think it's important to put into perspective that like if Indiana's playing this Alabama team tonight, like they're taking advantage of those holes in the defense. Like there just aren't the coverage busts on the back end for Indiana. Like it's a completely different football game in terms of the discipline and the technique of the defense, and it's a stark difference in football teams.
Yeah, I can't speak for the entire SEC nation, but there's no doubt that many of them will look down on this game, regardless of what the point spread is, which I believe Indiana is going to be roughly a touchdown favorite. But they're going to look down on the Big Ten in general, but certainly Indiana coming from the Big Ten. Like if it was Ohio State, it would be different. But Indiana coming from the Big Ten. And you're right. They did go on a 34-7 run to close out the game, but yeah, it was not a sharp football game. It was a fun football game. It was obviously close, and you had the big swing in the comeback. So I was entertained by the game. And I, like you, I thought Oklahoma was going to win this game. So I thought I was a genius for the first half. I thought, okay, this is what I've been telling people for a couple of weeks here, is that Oklahoma's not a bad football team, because all sorts of people thought they did not belong in the playoff. Of course, they belong to the playoff. Now, whether they were one of the 10 best football teams in America, they may not be, but they earned the spot. Yeah, so that's what you got coming up on New Year's Day.
Yeah, could not be more excited. We have actually Brad will be out in Pasadena, so we're a little bit of a travel thing. He's traveling this week, so we're going to be Monday. This coming up week, so instead of Tuesday. But yeah, Brad will be out for the Rose Bowl. And yeah, it for narrative sake, and this is something that I said on Tuesday, and it had to be Alabama. Like if Indiana is gonna have this season and go undefeated and make a run at the title and beat Ohio State, might as well line up all the demons in a row and let's vanquish them all at once. And so Ohio State for sure played them in the Big Ten championship game. Maybe have a date with them again. Alabama, line them up. Let's play them in the Rose Bowl. Like, let's go. These are the matchups you want. These are you can't ask for much more than this. And so we're excited. And yeah, we're going to be talking about it. Yeah, well, we're gonna collab with the Alabama Voice of College Football guys. We'll have Jackson and Jeffrey on, and I'll reach out to those guys and we'll figure something out.
To my recollection, Alabama's never played Indiana in football, at least in my lifetime. I can almost say that for sure. Okay, they've never played.
You nailed that one, Mark, and you also nailed the game line at 6.5.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's funny that we play a sport where in the two biggest conferences in the nation, there are two teams that have been playing football for like 120 years and they've never played.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, it makes sense when you think of the football histories of the two schools that you probably wanted to keep them far away from each other. So no time like the present for a first matchup.
Very good. Alec, appreciate you being here. Everyone, we have left the link to the Indiana channel there in the chat. Check it out. Check out the videos. And of course, Alec and Bradley will break down Alabama, and it'll be a whole lot of fun when they get together with the Alabama guys to mix it up on Monday night this week, typically Tuesdays. Alec, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mark.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and certainly a Happy New Year on New Year's Day at the Rose Bowl.
You as well, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Yeah, we are happy that right at the time that the Hoosiers emerge as a power, we put something together there on the Indiana channel. Thankful to Jeffrey, who's moved on to the Alabama channel, but with Alec and Bradley manning the ship. Hi, Cheryl. Everyone say hi to Cheryl. Cheryl, by far, is the longest standing member of the Voice of College Football community who's in the chat right now. If George was here, he would be second. I'm sure the real MVP's up there somewhere, but Cheryl's been around a long time here at the Voice of College Football, and she has done so much for us I cannot even begin to explain. So, Cheryl, I hope everything's fine. Good to see you. Thanks for showing up tonight. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. I will leave the link in the chat again. We got Trey on the line. Trey, what's going on?
Not too good, Mark. It seemed like it's all destroyed. And thank God it's a prediction, not a spoiler.
Well, yeah, it's just a prediction. I got it wrong too.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get them all right. I didn't think like I did last year when I went 11-0. But yeah, I missed this one.
But before we get to that, I want to say this. It's pretty sad that the bowl games right now. Earlier today, I thought NC State and Memphis would be a pretty good bowl game. That did not do very well either.
I did too.
I probably won't watch another bowl game until Hawaii and Cal. And then I watched the New Year Bowls. I love New Year Bowls. The Capital One Bowl, Outback Bowl, Cotton Bowl. Those are my favorite bowl games of all time. Anytime it's around Christmas, not Christmas, but around the 30th first or the January 1st and, the New Year 6th, I would love to watch them. I can't wait for that, but I'm actually keeping my eye on Cal and Hawaii. That'll be an interesting matchup. I know we all are fans of Hawaii at some point. I've been rooting them since that kick in Stanford versus Stanford earlier in the year. So I'll go on Hawaii. But
we're all Hawaii fans.
Yeah, I love them, man. How are you going to hate on Hawaii? They're awesome.
I said I really don't think about them.
No, okay. Man.
Hawaii fan. All right.
What was that guy? The Japanese kicker? It seems like he's a phenomenon throughout the year. I love the guy.
They love him here. He gets brought up all the time in the chat.
Well, I hope they win the Hawaii Bowl. It'd be great for him. It's been a long time for Hawaii not to have a good season. I'm glad for him. But what I've seen today for the Alabama-Oklahoma game, it looks like Oklahoma didn't want to play 60 minutes. That's how you win the game is 60 minutes. And another thing is, it's almost the same thing what happened when they first met up a couple weeks ago, but it's in reverse. Alabama had the most yards, but they turned it over. Something went wrong. Now it's Alabama that has the turnovers against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has the more total yards than Alabama did. Isn't that something?
Yes, I was going down that phenomena just a minute ago with the first caller with Alec. And, and even beyond that, Trey, it wasn't just that the yardage was flipped. It's that everything Alabama did in the first game wrong, Oklahoma did in the second game wrong. So in the first game, Oklahoma had a pick six TD. In the second game, Alabama is the pick six. In the first game, the Alabama kicker missed a field goal. In the second game, Oklahoma's field goal missed a kicker. They might have missed a field goal, or they might have had a shot to, pull out the game at the end. In the first game, there were some other things. There was a punt return in the first game for Oklahoma, 50 yards to put them in field goal range. In the second game, Bama got that late punt return when Oklahoma had to punt from the end zone that set up the late touchdown to really that ice the game. So it was almost exactly the same. And then Bama started to get sacks and some turnovers. I think Bama was +2 in turnovers this time. Oklahoma was +2 the last time. They completely changed uniforms.
I thought really Oklahoma was going to run away with it early. It surely looked like it. It was like 17-0, and the crowd was getting involved. It was starting to get bad. And all of a sudden, they just changed. And that punt, they had a touchdown, but when they had that fumble of the punt fumble, whatever, that really changed the narrative. That it's like they never could get that momentum back. Whatever happened after that, it looked like they were deer in headlights. They couldn't react. They let them score 24 straight points. It looked like they couldn't defend the pass. And if they wanted to run, and they had a little bit of success running, if they really wanted to run, they could have run right through them. They could have went right through the gaps and went right and punched them in the face. That was terrible football. I don't know what was Oklahoma thinking of just playing only one quarter and expect them to win the whole thing. It looked like they didn't want it more. When Alabama had the opportunities, they capitalized on them and they want to put them away. I'm very shocked that Oklahoma's defense just collapsed. I don't know where the pass rush was. The coverage, it looked like they couldn't guard them. Alabama does not have the best receivers. I will argue that. They drop balls and they're not really good as they were years ago. And that defense of Oklahoma is a top defense, top 5, top 10 defense in college football, and it didn't even look like they were even close to even being like that. It looked like a top 50 defense. That's embarrassing.
Maybe the chat can fact check us on this one. So Roll Tide Forever says that this is the biggest comeback in college football playoff history.
It was Oklahoma and Georgia. It was 20 points.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. So
yeah, I'm glad someone bring that up.
17-point spread. I think we've got a tie.
Do we?
I believe. I might be wrong. I think Oklahoma led that game like 17-0 or 24-7, 31-14, something like that. I think it was 17. Maybe it was more than that. But I know that it was at least 17. So Bama has only tied the playoff comeback record. I can't think of another one. That would be it. There just have not been many comebacks at all.
Not since the 14 CFP. Usually
Not
in the
even
CFP is blowout
championship game.
Usually it's blowouts in that game. You know, blowouts in these semis. The semis are usually blowouts. That's why it just like Washington and Alabama was a good example. We all thought Jake Browning could beat Alabama and stuff, and they got stomped. And that's
Who thought that?
I thought Jake Browning could beat Alabama.
I didn't think
I did for sure. Alabama. I like Jake Browning.
Thank goodness.
No, I was buying into the Jake Browning nonsense and I hating on Alabama. That's just because I hate him. That I was not thinking back. That was like 2016, man. I was only 22. I am
racking my brain for another comeback, but yes, somebody look up Oklahoma, Georgia. It was at least 17 points, so I think we've got a tie there.
Actually, that's my favorite college football playoff game ever.
Okay,
that's my favorite because you have the superpowers of Baker Mayfield versus Nick Chubb, and it was a great, awesome game. I don't care who won; it was just fantastic. But now what for Alabama? They took care of business. Now they go to Indiana. I'm not buying into it, Mark. I can't buy into Alabama.
Okay.
This is completely different for the face Indiana. They got to have like a defense caliber of Oklahoma. But Oklahoma showed exposure and cracks. Could Indiana also have cracks in their defense? They never really got tested except for Ohio State, and they did well. We'll see if they can have a little bit bump up because Ty Simpson is actually pretty good if he's on a good day. I think he's actually better than Julian Sayin, in my opinion. Julian Sayin is not as good as people think he is. But I think Ty Simpson is very underrated. And Oklahoma really looked under him. You know, they looked over him. They didn't really see him as a threat until later, and it was basically too late, Mark.
I love how you get into the players and the coaches' heads and know what they're thinking.
I wish I did, man.
Oklahoma did not see Ty Simpson as a threat. They overlooked him.
Well, especially the last couple of games, I wouldn't, because he looked like complete crap for a month or two, and he looked terrible. And I really didn't think he was going to have a good day because of the defense, but I was wrong, and I admit that. But I'm looking forward to see how Alabama progresses. I want to see them do what they did here, but they're going to have a harder time with Indiana. Indiana's another step. For Miami and Texas A&M, I would say it's going to be a shootout. It's not going to be no defense, really. I think Miami beats Texas A&M because they have a better defense than Texas A&M, but I think it's going to be a shootout, Mark.
All right. Anything else for us, Trey?
Well, my bracket's busted, but I still think Ohio State's going to win. But do not be surprised if Miami can go all the way to the championship either. I think everybody's underrating Miami a little bit.
I have to double check this whole comeback at the Rose Bowl with Georgia and Oklahoma because some people are saying that this is the record tonight. I'm almost positive. Yes. Oklahoma led 31-14. So this only ties the record. Yes, this only ties the record. Alabama fans are getting excited about their record. And so you get a tie for the record of comebacks.
Well, you got to give them a dog. You got to give their dog a bone.
back from 17 as well. So between Trey and I, we knew that. All right.
Well, you gotta give a dog a bone, Mark. They're gonna be proud about what they got now, but they ain't gonna be proud about what they got next time. They got Indiana, so it's gonna be shattered dreams, baby.
All right, Trey. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mark. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, and God bless everybody.
God bless you. I have no idea what Trey was talking about there at the end about the dog and the bone, but that's fine. All right. Yes, we have confirmed the 17-point comeback is a tie for the best in CFP history. I've gone through all the BCS championship games. There's been nothing close to a 17-point comeback. LSU was down 10-0 to Ohio State. That's about as far as we got with that. Yeah. Oh, wait. Hey. No. Auburn 21, Florida State 3 at the BCS championship game in 2013. So I know that's not a playoff game, but I'm taking it back to the BCS. So there is a 1-point better comeback. Florida State over Auburn. Yeah, the game was 21-3. Florida State won, 34-31? And there you have it. Okay, we got DeReal MVP on the line. DeReal, what's going on?
Oh, nothing much. A good day of college football all around. I was surprised either team was able to come back from a 17-point deficit in this game. I think both these teams have two of the top 10 defenses in the country. So I'm really surprised how quickly the comeback happened. And that tells me Alabama's offense has really clicked up on cylinders from where they were a few weeks ago. I think Alabama has the weapons on offense to compete against an Indiana. Are they going to beat Indiana? Probably not, but they have the weapons to compete.
Sorry to interrupt just quickly. I stated like 48 times. Yes, I understand the difference between the BCS and college football playoff. Folks, if any of you do not believe that I know the difference between the college football playoff and the BCS, I would advise you to turn me off immediately. Like when I get corrected like that, it drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. I stated like 47 times. Yes, I know that was the 2013 BCS championship game. That was not a college football playoff game. Yes. All right. Sorry, DeReal. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Or were you just surprised the way the game went? Like, I'm not surprised Alabama won by 10. 34 points is a little on the high end, but that's not even surprising to me. But them being down 17 points and be able to come back as quickly as they did, granted a pick six was involved, but them coming back within those final 5 minutes was very surprising to me. Was that as surprising to you or surprising to you?
Yes. So I will say it this way. I often, when you or anyone else gets on here and says, wasn't that surprising? I know I sound like Debbie Downer, sound like, I've seen everything, because I typically respond, well, it didn't surprise me because we've seen this before. And then I go through the litany of examples. But to be reasonable about it, wasn't the most shocking thing I've ever seen in history. But yes, it was a surprise because I give Bama so much credit because I don't know that people are letting this entire series of developments over the last month to 5 weeks sink in of how this team has not just played poorly, but it's been very much aided by an injury bug that has hit them all over the place. Offensive line, best 2 running backs, defense. They've gotten hit with injuries. Everyone has to a certain extent, but they've really gotten beaten up with injuries. And then I just think that the offensive line deterioration in pass protection and Ty Simpson, that's just kind of gone hand in hand as the offensive line has broken down and he's gotten less time. He's obviously, that affects every quarterback. So he's not the only one. And then that has caused him to lose confidence, lose his rhythm, lose his decisiveness, and he loses his tight end, Josh Cuevas, late in the season, who was a security blank. I just think that this team got kind of lost offensively. The defense has always been good. They just got completely lost, and it wasn't like the Alabama of 10 years ago where not that we ever saw this, but if the passing game came off the rails, maybe it did a time or two with Jalen Hurts at the helm. You talk about a surprise that Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That surprises me after watching him during his Alabama days. But anyway, back to the here and now, that they played this poorly and went into the playoff with this knowledge that they were receiving a lot of criticism, that they didn't deserve it, that they didn't earn it. They played so poorly against Georgia. They haven't played really well for a long time. And they get down 17-0 on the road, and they rebound from that. I give them a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of skis because Alabama's probably going to lose to Indiana. But if Alabama does make a run to beat Indiana or make the semifinals or make the national championship game, that drive when they were down 17-0 and probably one of the most hostile environments you can have in college football, that was a championship level drive that they had there. Just to systematically go down the field, there was no real big explosive plays, and just score that touchdown. It could have got ugly real fast. And I thought, to be honest with you, it was going to get ugly. Like, we're going to have another complete garbage can game, complete blowout. All the people saying Alabama didn't belong in the playoff would use this as data. But, Mark, there's other things that happened today, and I would say the biggest loser outside of Oklahoma today was your Michigan fan base. They went in full meltdown mode. They didn't want DeBoer. They didn't want DeBoer because he had too high expectations. But, I mean, it's pretty obvious they wanted Kalen DeBoer to be their head coach, and he's not going to be their head coach. So I guess Kenny Dillingham's going to be their next head coach, Mark. You got any thoughts or reaction to potentially Kenny Dillingham most likely being their head coach?
So even though Dillingham made that tearful speech the other day, that doesn't mean anything?
They're all set. It's Kenny Dillingham. They're all set. It's Kenny Dillingham or bust for them.
Especially considering it's my alma mater. If I'm Kenny Dillingham, I've got a good thing going at Arizona State, and it's not like he's never going to ascend to an elite level coach, but I would pass on Michigan. And I'm not letting my bias, I hope I'm not letting my bias, change my mind or alter my, what would have been my thought about this job. But I would need to be convinced that things have drastically changed at that university and in that football program.
Absolutely, they were more upset than I think some Oklahoma fans probably were. That they, I mean, you turn on that stream, I swore Michigan was playing in that game with the way they were reacting. How upset they were that Alabama won, but they didn't win.
They called a live stream for after the game, so and I'm sure it's a packed house over there. And John let me know. He texted me. He's like, "I'd like to do this live stream after that." I said, "Go right to it."
They didn't want Kalen DeBoer, though. Kalen DeBoer had way too high expectations and, all that stuff. But, they didn't want him, Mark. But they wanted him, You know how it goes.
Yes, it's like the recruiting game. We didn't want him when he turned us down. We suddenly didn't want him. Well, then why are you talking about him? Yeah.
Exactly.
The real, sometimes I reflect on what direction we should take this channel and so forth. I'll throw this out at you. There is so much fodder out there, so much material to work with just utter nonsense on social media that some days I think it would be fun just to post just college football take after college football take and acknowledge the one out of 20 or 30 that's insightful, that makes sense. And then the other 90+% are just complete moronic takes, or they're just simply not factual. They're lies. They're not the truth. And much of that is coming from the Michigan fan base here in recent weeks. They are just in full spin mode about this coaching situation, about their past cheating, and also about their performance against Ohio State. They're in full just 1912 mode.
Absolutely. There's a lot of There is an unlimited supply of fools out there that need to be corrected. I saw one guy saying we need a 14-team playoff, but every conference gets an automatic bid. I'm not sure if you saw any of the Kennesaw State Western Michigan game today, Mark, that bowl game. Let me tell you right now, Kennesaw State did not belong in the college football playoff. I can personally confirm that after watching them get whooped in every single facet you can possibly imagine to a MAC team. Now, granted, they're the MAC champion in Western Michigan, but they did not belong in the college football playoff either.
Yes, and I do believe, let's see, who won the American? Obviously, Tulane. I believe that all the conference champions from the group of 5 threw up another goose egg against the power conferences.
Well, they haven't beat them yet. NC State whooped Memphis today. They were up 21 nothing at the end of the first quarter, something like that.
Yeah,
May have been 17 nothing.
Regular season.
Yeah. Well, it's going into bowl games too. These meaningless bowl games, they can't even compete. That's how bad the group of 5 is.
Yeah, I don't think people grasp that we're just talking about completely different levels of football.
Oh, they don't. They're going to be shocked tomorrow. Go on Twitter in about the second quarter of the Oregon James Madison game, and you can literally make a video. Just go live and say, "Hey, look at all these people coping about James Madison being down 42-0 with 6 minutes to go."
Yes. I'm going to shoot the video about 3 minutes into the game, and then I'm just going to mouth the score, the final score, or just put it on the screen at the end when it's a final, whatever it is,
63-0, 63-7, something like that. It's going to get ugly.
I think so too. I generally think so. Yeah.
As the only person who has seen James Madison in this chat, I can almost guarantee that they are not a good football team. Their offensive, defensive line couldn't compete with Louisville. God bless them against Oregon. They're going to get absolutely pastered in that game. It's going to be humiliating to watch. Oregon might get 10, 11, or 12 sacks in that game, Mark. I wouldn't be surprised if James Madison had -3 total yards at the half. It's going to be completely ugly. They don't belong. It's going to be like that Oregon Liberty game a few years ago where Liberty somehow scored a miracle touchdown and then absolutely did nothing. That's best case scenario for James Madison is that happens to them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't know about the 12 sacks, but I tend to agree with you. Maybe not to that extreme. I'll throw a score out there. Why not? I think this is easy money with a 20.5 point line is the last one I saw, 21.5. I'll go Oregon wins this 45-10.
That feels like an Ole Miss Tulane level game, 45-10.
Yeah, I think that was the first game.
It was.
One.
So for this next game, this Alabama-Indiana game, just to go back.
Yep.
I've seen it as low as 5, 5.5, as high as 6.5. It was 7 earlier, when the week line projected out. Why do you think it's gone down by that much? Because 1.5 points, and just for one data point, is pretty massive.
It is massive. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if that is that early money coming in. I don't know if that's the smart money, the sharp money.
No, this was literally the posted line was 5.5, so no money came in.
Okay, I thought there was a posted line. I know that you had said
6.5 some places, 5.5 others. Okay. I've even seen one place where it said it was 5. So to be 2 point different from a week, how they have week ahead, look ahead lines,
sure, to
where you can buy in super, super early. And it was projected at 7. Well, now it's the game, since it's officially going to happen, it's at 5 to 6.5, which is very large movement for one data point.
Yeah, I don't know if that's football related or if that is a prediction of the public consciousness and the public take on this, that they would just grab Alabama in a touchdown or 6.5 points.
Right. I mean, your Indiana guy that was talking on here, I understand his point that it's Indiana and people are going to disrespect them because it's Indiana. But him going at Alabama and saying there was a lot of drop balls and that they played sloppy and stuff. I mean, Oklahoma's going to force some mistakes in there. That's not like they're scrubs. I do think Alabama did prove tonight that they could beat Indiana. I would just, be wise that this is probably the most talented or second most talented team Indiana's going to see all season. I think this is at worst in Indiana's third toughest opponent that they've played the entire course of the season. And for Indiana, they've never had to play a stretch of back-to-back games where it's Ohio State, Alabama. And I do have some depth concerns for Indiana, what the toll is going to take. Now, I know they've had a month or so to rest up, and that should heal some of the factors. But still, for them, this is the biggest game in the history of their program. And I wonder if there's going to be some nerve, some spot, you shrink in the spotlight type things for them, because they didn't look particularly competitive in their game against Notre Dame. Now, they were obviously outclassed, but their head coach, Kirk Cinetti, really was reserved in that game. He didn't play aggressive at all, and he played not to get blown out. And if he does that against Alabama, Alabama should win the football game.
Yeah, I do think that Cignetti's got so much more confidence in this team. I think he knew what he had last year, that he really coached them up to a level where they were competent, capable. They could beat down 2/3 of the Big Ten, but then there was a massive jump. And yeah, I think that he wanted to wrap up the season in a way that showed they belonged, but he knew that they couldn't beat Notre Dame. So he managed to score the game.
Right.
But I think he's much more confidence. I just think he's got a different quarterback and believe he's got a better team and does have a better team.
Do you think there's any chance at all if Indiana gets off to a bad start, it could go sideways? Because the three ways I see this game is Alabama blowout, Alabama close game, or Indiana close game. I don't see Indiana blowing out Alabama because of their style of play.
We just haven't seen that from Indiana this season in regards to, they didn't melt down against Ohio State in any such way. Obviously, they won the game. They went out to Autzen Stadium, went to Oregon, played as well as they did. They didn't play particularly well against Iowa, but they still pulled the game out. So they've played well, even the Penn State game. Penn State, it's not what we expected them to be, but still a talented defense, and they marched down the field when they had to pull that game out. So they've really played well in the clutch. So, yeah, anything can happen, but I don't think it's going to go sideways against Indiana.
I mean, it's fair. And the only reason I'm saying is because they're new to this thing. And
sure,
you've got to have those doubts for somebody who's brand new to this and has never done it before and doesn't have the pedigree.
Well, they haven't gone to a bowl game site with these kind of stakes, if you're saying that. They played in the playoff last year.
Right, but they haven't played at this level where they're expected now to win. Like, they're going to be favored at kickoff. Most people have them winning the national championship or moving on to at least face Oregon and lose to Oregon. So this is the first time in their program's history, that they're expected to win this game. And it just wouldn't shock me at all if Alabama pulled off the upset. Everybody's upset about this playoff structure and, how the little old SEC with their bias and all that stuff came through in the clutch. But, Mark, we got a whole slate of games tomorrow. I look forward to calling you after Miami beats Texas A&M.
Thanks, to Real. Folks, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes to close things out, unless you'd like to keep this going all night or for however long. We got to catch up with a super chat or two. Adam, thank you so much for the contribution. Mark, Oklahoma, like Drew Aller, Bernie Sanders, and the Iron Sheik has no class. What a trio. This is definitely a unique sentence that has never been uttered in the history of mankind. Drew Aller, Bernie Sanders, and the Iron Sheik all in one sentence. Alabama has the defense, the skill players, and the intangibles to beat Indiana. If they do, they could win it all. And we have Sunny Days 885. John and TJ sent me. John said he deserves a raise. I'm sure I deserve a raise as well. Is somebody going to give me a raise? I guess that's all up to all of you fine folks out there. All right. Do appreciate John and TJ doing us a kind favor to send some folks our way. For those of you who have yet to watch us here at the Voice of College Football, this is the channel that's been around the longest. And hey, with that Michigan channel just taking off and just stampeding us, we were once the most popular with the most people here at this channel. But that's great. That's why I did what I did with the various team channels. We want to build those up. So I am gracious to TJ and John for sending you folks, and you'll find some nice videos and other things that we do here at the Voice of College Football. But we do a show either post game or 10 p.m. Eastern time throughout the week. All right, we got Adam stopping by. Adam, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thanks for having me on and for reading another ridiculous but hopefully creative comment.
Oh, well, there's no doubt about that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I just have a couple of really quick comments. So I hear a lot of people talking about how Alabama does not have a running game. And that kind of begs the question, what does it mean to have a running game? I mean, Navy has one of the best running games in the country. So does Air Force. So does Army, and much respect to our servicemen and women. I don't know. How do you define having a good running game? For me, you define it situationally. If you can run the ball effectively when you need to run the ball effectively, I don't really care how much you average per carry. I care about, can you run it when you need to run it? And tonight, Alabama ran it when they needed to run it. Daniel Hill's touchdown, Ty Simpson's scramble, and Daniel Hill's 30-yard run. So why do we accept that they don't have a running game?
We accept it because they don't have a running game. So this is how I would define
circular reasoning. Go ahead.
This is how I would define it.
Fair enough.
I am going to make a guarantee right here that no team is going to win the national championship running for 50 yards. That you cannot survive through gauntlets of defenses and waves of Georgia, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State level defenses and run for 50 yards. You've got to be more balanced than that. Maybe you can get away with it once, especially when the other team's Oklahoma and their offense is obviously in question. They throw a pick six, they miss a field goal, they make the mistakes that they do. The punter drops the football, those sorts of things. But I agree with your situational comment, because I've said the same thing about Ohio State in particular, when they earlier in the season weren't running the ball well, but them running the ball not well was still like 3 times better than Alabama. That yes, if you can move the chains on 4th and short, 3rd and short with the running game, if you can ice the game with 3 to 4 minutes left on the clock and keep the football away from the other team by running the football, and maybe you can piece together outside of the traditional we're running off tackle and handing the ball to a running back, meaning a quarterback or a wide receiver on jet sweeps is a threat of a different sort, then you can maybe put together a running game that, yes, is better situationally and functionally and practically in a practical sense than the actual statistics would show us. So I partially agree with your statement.
Okay, that's fair. So in 1995, I believe that Tommy Frazier in Nebraska defeated Florida for the national championship. Is that accurate?
They sure did.
I would not say that Nebraska offense was a very elite passing offense. They were overwhelmingly a running offense, were they not?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, and then I think in 1997, again, I'm 50 years old. We can't rely on my representations, but I think in 97, Florida and Danny Werfel beat Florida State like 50 or something to 20. And I believe that offense was primarily a passing offense, right? The Steve Spurrier fun and gun, as they
Okay.
call it.
It was
Right?
one season earlier, but I got you. Yeah.
My
96.
my
Yeah.
point being, you could argue that 95 Nebraska did not have a passing game, and that 97 Florida did not have a running game, but they still won a national championship. So how do you reconcile that with the argument that Alabama can't win because they don't have a running game as some would subjectively define it?
Okay. I'm going to reconcile it fairly easily. One is that we are in 2025 and not in the 1990s, meaning if you took the majority of the country in 1995, and certainly before that, there was a disproportionate number of attempts in the passing game versus the running game and in production. So the most of the country was playing like that. So a balanced offense was beneficial, but it wasn't as necessary as it is today. And also Nebraska was dominant as a rushing team. Like they were the best by far. Like Alabama is not, they're really good throwing the football. They've got one of the best quarterbacks. They've got a really good wide receiver core and tight end, but they're not like far and away. Like they are the best passing attack, the most prolific in college football. No, they're not that. They're good. So that would be one. Also, if you go back to that Florida team, I guarantee that Florida team was an extremely strong rushing attack.
Okay, so would you agree or disagree that a team that has a situationally effective running game can win the national championship even if they do not necessarily run the ball consistently well?
Yes. If they would have to be elite passing the football and on defense. And also, I don't think Alabama was situationally really good tonight. I think you cited a few things that they did in key situations, but not consistently. I think you need to run the football better than they did tonight to beat the elite teams.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess the last thing I'll say is that teams that are traditionally elite at running or passing over the course of a season, that doesn't mean that they're going to be elite in either category against a specific team and in a specific context. So having a great running game or a great passing game does not mean that those attributes will not be present against a particular opponent. My point being, the narrative that Alabama does not have a good running game, I think, is misleading. And I think we saw that tonight because they ran it when they had to run it, and they won the game 34-7 after being down 17-0. So I think my point is it's a little bit more nuanced than just that representation would suggest.
Well, yes. There are people out there that just flat out say Alabama can't run the football. They're horrible. And that's the end of the story. I think I gave you context, at least from my perspective, and a nuanced response to that both gave credit to your take on this and analysis, but also did back up that Alabama doesn't have a rushing attack that I think is capable of winning a national championship at its current production. And by the way, yeah, that Florida team had Fred Taylor, who was a first-round pick in the NFL draft at running back.
Yeah.
And they did run for 25 touchdowns.
Right. Okay. Fair point. The last question for you is, after the Sharon Moore situation at Michigan, how do you think that will affect a new coach's decision about whether to take the job and how Michigan might change its policies to prevent this type of situation from happening again? Do you think that Michigan, I would think, is going to say, how did we miss this? Why did we miss this? And what are they going to do to ensure this doesn't happen again? And how is it the new head coach going to approach this situation coming into a team that was hit with scandal?
Well, first of all, if you hire an experienced head coach, and certainly they're looking at two that they want to hire in Kalen DeBoer and Kenny Dillingham, they probably had one taken off the table tonight, most likely. Then your chances are minimized greatly just by sheer history. That the history of the individual shows that they've been in the business for X number of years, and they have towed the line, and they have been a professional, both on the field and in the office. So again, that just the sheer fact of hiring somebody with a track record that has integrity and character tied to it is going to go a long way in preventing this. So that's one way. Now, in terms of being the interviewee of the coaching process, like when I was asked about Kenny Dillingham, and I actually cut it out and posted it as a video, I just basically said, if I'm Kenny Dillingham in particular, just because that's the person that was brought to my attention, I'm interviewing, even though mighty Michigan seems to be, and in normal circumstances would be a desirable location where they could just handpick a head coach from Arizona State, that Kenny Dillingham or anyone else should be very, very cautious and should want, I don't know if you can present proof, but evidence that things have changed and that they're going to be surrounded by a healthy, functional operation.
So what if I become the head coach of Michigan football and I fall in love with the women's basketball coach? Is that okay? What if I fall in love with the women's soccer coach or my point being, and no, I'm not high as hell. I'm drinking green tea. My point is, number one, does someone who might otherwise take the Michigan job hesitate a bit because of the optics of the scandal? And number two, what's the contours of the policy? What if the head football coach falls in love with the women's basketball coach? What's the deal there?
So the first part of that is, I think that this is an opportunity to be a hero. I would look at it differently. As long as I determined that I'm walking into a situation with a healthy framework in which the problems have been identified, the people, the coaches, the administrators, whomever that created this toxic culture, or at least allowed it, they've been removed, that I would be the guy that walks into Michigan and I am looked at. So I would think that Kenny Dillingham and especially Kalen DeBoer have a long enough track record to a certain degree that none of this is on them. They are coming into a situation, and we assume, because they've proven it in other stops, that they're not the issue. They're not the problem. So you can show yourself to be a hero.
Yes, but things change and life changes. So what if the new head football coach has an affair on his wife? My point being, I know everyone thinks I'm crazy for saying this, but it's a little bit more complex than meets the eye. What if Dillingham has an affair on his wife? Is that going to be a problem? I mean, it does raise questions about what the outer limits are about what's permissible. The idea, what Sharon did, obviously is not appropriate, of course.
Sure.
But
well, I understand where you're going with this. Like,
right.
Yeah. If I'll just use myself for an example. If during my tenure at ESPN, I choose to do something that's an offense against my wife in my personal relationship, but it doesn't impact ESPN, I still do my job well, and that's not going to be an issue, I don't believe, versus if somebody of note in the public eye does something, and especially if it's stated in their contract that they can be held accountable for that, it's a bad look for the university. So yes, they can hold. Yeah, I would think that you know all of this much better than I do from a legal standpoint, of course, but if Sharon Moore or anyone else signed a contract that said, I cannot partake in X, Y, and Z, meaning relationships within the university or within my own department. Now, Sharon Moore, it was within his own department with his assistant. Maybe those guidelines are non-existent beyond the football department for the women's basketball coach or whomever. I doubt it. They're probably in place for that. And is that right or is that wrong? I'm not here to make that judgment call, except for I do believe it's the right of the employer to say, we don't want that look. We don't want that to be an issue. We don't want to have that type of environment or portray that type of image. Therefore, we're writing it outside the rules. I will say, when I worked at ESPN in particular, that there were all sorts of people dating. Now, there were also conversations in management rooms that said, we need to watch him and her, or we need to take him off this assignment and do this, or we're going to move her out of this department.
Yes, I think the difference in the Michigan situation is that now you have a precedent that has created a terrible optic for Michigan, such that behavior that would be otherwise considered within the personal realm of someone's life may no longer be, because of the optics and damage to the image that will be created because of what Sharon Moore did. In other words, Michigan is not going to tolerate things it might otherwise tolerate because of the damage that's already been caused and how it would be compounded. And what I'm saying is that it becomes very tricky from a legal perspective and even from a coach's perspective of, since the optic that Sharon created is so bad, they're going to be concerned about their image to such a degree that if a coach has an affair in his private life, that could be the end of that coach. If the coach falls in love with the women's basketball coach, Michigan might say, forget it, because any optic that is even in the same galaxy as Sharon Moore, even if not improper, we don't want because of the damage she created. And I think that that's something that I suspect that coaches and their lawyers might be considering.
So,
do you see my point?
Yeah, I see your point. Let's take a university in which it would be difficult for us to remember any kind of scandals or black marks against the school athletically. I can't think of anything, let's say, at the University of Oregon. And suddenly we had a similar situation, and it was amicable across the board. We didn't have any violence or anything involving that, just simply a relationship, the head football coach and assistant. You think that that would be tolerable because it didn't carry past that in that situation, nor was there the history of all the other scandals in the athletic department's recent past?
I think that if, in my personal view, it's wrong for anyone, whether a coach or a professor, to be having a relationship with a subordinate. However, I do think in a program that has an otherwise clean past, if a very successful coach was having an amicable relationship with a subordinate, I do believe most programs would probably overlook it. Now, that is not going to be the case with Michigan anymore, nor should it be. But my point is that it could bleed into other areas of relationships that otherwise might be considered part of someone's personal life that won't anymore because of the optics threat that it causes, given the recency of the damage caused by the Sharon Moore scandal. And I think that might be a consideration that some coaches might. What if you become the coach of Michigan and guess what? 6 months later, you're getting a divorce, or you have an affair, or you fall in love with the biology professor on campus? It's not going to be tolerated where it otherwise would be if this hadn't happened. And that's my point. How does Michigan shape its policies to protect what it otherwise would normally protect while safeguarding its image? I think that's going to be very tricky.
Well, I think we've gone 3 different levels of relationship within the institution. We've gone subordinate being the most easy to target as a violation or a reasonable violation. Then we've gone to within the athletic department. Then we've gone to the biology professor. So I would not think that that would be an issue. The latter with the biology professor. So, but the subordinate, there's obviously an obvious conflict there.
I'm sorry that I've gone so far afield and digressed, but I just from an academic and legal perspective, I was thinking about this tonight that it may cause at least some contemplation about how to handle this.
And then from a perception standpoint, if I'm running a business, again, there would be a difference between the workers that worked behind the scenes whose names were not public and how they were treated versus somebody who's in the public limelight. And it's one thing to have a relationship with someone. It's another thing to have relationship with someone when you have a legal marriage relationship with somebody else. So that is an obvious issue of morality that obviously the University of Michigan didn't want to deal with or have on its staff. And I would not want that either. And that person would be fired.
I agree, but I think that my concern is overbreadth, that in reaction to this scandal, there might be policy changes or at least informal actions in response to things that otherwise would be protected that will not be tolerated anymore. And I think that that's something that may concern an incoming coach, not simply the idea of an extramarital affair, for example, but the idea of how is their conduct going to be viewed at a university who is already quite sensitive to its image. But I don't want to take any more time. I know you have other callers. And I'm sorry for digressing, but I sometimes
it's an interesting topic. I would advise them, this is a phone. There are plenty of dating apps. There's all sorts of women on here, and they actually, some of them turn out to be fake, but many of them don't. And, it does work. You can go that route.
I agree. Thanks, Mark. Great talking to you as always.
Thanks, Adam.
You got it.
All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here. We got Hunter stopping by for a conversation. Hunter, how are you?
How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. I hadn't talked to you in a little bit. It's been a while.
You get a big win tonight.
I did. I honestly, after that first quarter, I did not think we were going to win this game at all. I was kind of like, well, there goes our season. And I was very frustrated at Ty Simpson in the first quarter, but hats off to the guy. I mean, he really did come around, and I get frustrated because I think sometimes he needs to run the ball when the pocket collapses, and he kind of just tends to stay there and ends up getting sacked. But we did see that one play tonight where he did the pocket collapse and he took off and made it. What was it, a 12 or 13-yard run to right there? And so those are the little things that I just get frustrated with, and I think that we can do a better job of going forward.
Oh, you're asking me what they could do better?
No, I'm saying like Ty can do better as far as not staying in the pocket too long, and when nobody's open and the pocket collapses, just to take off instead of just sitting there holding it and getting sacked. I think we've seen that too many times over the last few games where he has tended to do that, and I don't know if he's taught to do that or if that's just an instinct thing.
I think that this game may do wonders for his confidence and get him back to where he was, mid-season.
I hope so. But Mark, you're not going to believe this, and I'm honest to God, truth. This is how it happened. So me and my dad are sitting down watching the game on the couch, and this is like literally 2 seconds before the pick six, and I was thinking we were talking about ways we could get the momentum back, and I looked at my dad and I said, I would love a pick six here, and literally, Mark, 2 seconds later it was a pick six, and that was that was kind of crazy in the moment because I literally just got it out of my mouth, not even 2 seconds before that happened.
You spoke it into existence, Hunter.
Yeah, I guess I did. I guess I did. Okay, so you're I'm an SEC guy. You're more of a Big Ten, so you're the perfect
I'm a
guy.
national guy, Hunter. I have no biases, none.
You have
Except
some.
I'm actually a Coastal Carolina fan this year. I was rooting for them from the beginning because they went to free concessions. I thought that that's
Hmm.
what the fans needed.
I will say this: you are fair, but we all have our biases.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hunter, I'm glad you said that because I don't know how many times people have pointed out that they think they're uncovering something and they tell me that I'm biased, or they say they're not biased. Yeah, everybody has a bias. It's actually even been proven psychologically that we have, pick a game that you on the surface could care less about. Kansas State and Iowa State. I'm guessing you could care less if those two teams played, who won. But it's still been proven that if that game was on TV, you would have a bias toward one or the other in a very small way just because you liked a color or you liked how a style of play or something would cause you to be biased slightly. It's
Right.
it's in all of us. Yeah.
Right. Well, the only reason I said that you're a Big Ten guy is because you're Ohio State guy. So,
Yeah. I
uh,
know.
uh,
I know. I'm
so
just kidding.
so yeah. So my
Yes.
question to
I've
you.
rooted for every Big Ten team to win a bowl game since I was 8 years old. So you're right.
So my question to you is, looking at this Indiana team, um, what do you think? There's a real realistic expectation going into this game. Them facing Alabama
For Indiana,
or Indiana, or yeah, both ways. I mean,
well,
how would
Indiana's
you?
the favorite. And if you've watched them play this year, and you did not know that it was Indiana football, you would think that it was Georgia or Ohio State. They're
Because
really
I'll be
good.
honest with you, I haven't watched them play. I've seen highlights and I've seen clips, but I'm not seen the full game.
Well, my goodness, they haven't been perfect. They were trailing a Penn State team that's 6-6 in the final minute. They needed some very fortunate plays to go their way and a backup quarterback to be in the game for Iowa to win on the road at Iowa. So they haven't been there. There's this perception out there that they've just steamrolled through the season and been completely dominant. Well, not exactly. But and they were fortunate Ohio State missed a 25-yard field goal, which seems inexplicable. Not that they would have lost the game, it would have been tied. But they were very close to losing the Big Ten championship game. They earned it. I'm not discounting. I'm not in any way. If anyone thinks that this is me making excuses for Ohio State, no, this is me just saying that Indiana did not dominate the game. They stopped Ohio State on 2 4th-and-inches play, and Ohio State missed a field goal. So anyway, but they're extremely good. I don't think they're the best team in the country, but I believe they're certainly in the top 5.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this will be an intriguing game to see how it is. Now, I think there are some factors that go into this game that I think tilt in the favor of Alabama. Um, and that is one, they've never been in a bowl game like this before, and two, I think Alabama's defense is just really really good, and it's going to be interesting to see how they go up against uh, an SEC defense.
Do you
And
think Alabama's defense is better than Ohio State's?
I'm not going to say better, but I think that they're comparable.
Okay, I'll accept that. Sure.
I mean, I
I
think
think
they're
Alabama's got one of the best defenses in the country. I think Ohio State has the best defense in the country. I'm not positive. I think between the way Georgia's playing now, their season-long statistics wouldn't show this, but I think Georgia's dominant now. everybody focused on Oklahoma's defense going into this because their offense is so bad and their defense have won the games. But yeah, I have said that Alabama's defense, I think they have a top 5 defense. Sure.
I don't think that we are the best defense in the country. I will say this. I think in some aspects Ohio State's better, and I think in some aspects Alabama's better. So we'll just kind of leave it at that because,
Sure.
Yeah, it's just really intriguing, to see an Indiana team. If you would have asked me preseason, if you would have told me that preseason that Indiana would be the number 1 team in the country, I would have laughed in your face, and
Sure.
and so, I mean, hats off to Kurt Cinetti. I mean, the guy's been a good job, there, and I've always respected him. I know he coached at Alabama for a while, and he has some SEC experience, so he knows what he's getting into. Facing
Yep.
an SEC team. So
what does that even mean? So maybe I'm picking on you, Hunter, and I don't mean to do it because this term gets thrown out all over the place, and I'm trolling in a way because I know what it means, but I guess I'm just challenging that it should not mean anything. He's an SEC player, they're an SEC team. Well, yeah, I know that they're in the SEC, but that doesn't mean that they're any good. Kentucky's in the SEC. So like I find that term rather annoying.
yeah, I understand what you mean. I get it. I get it, but I'm just saying that
I've probably said it a couple times myself, so I'm not like
I'm into
railing
it.
on anyone in particular, but
Yeah. But yeah. So let me move on to another game before I get out of here. I'm really interested in this Miami and Texas A&M game.
yeah.
I personally think that A&M is gonna win.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Miami won either. So it's gonna be one of
Sure.
these games where um I like Mike Elko. I think he's a good coach. I think that you know I think he's done a good job. I think that A&M has the quarterback advantage in this game.
Ooh, okay. I'll state it a different way, but go ahead.
I just like Marcel Reed. I think he's a good quarterback. I've watched him a couple times this year and watched Miami, and I think he's just the slightly better quarterback. So
Yeah, my thoughts on this one is that the two things that come to mind that can't be or are difficult to debate is that Texas A&M is obviously at home. That's a home field advantage, and it is a real advantage. I don't know that it's overwhelming, but it's one of the most difficult places to play in college football, and I'm sure
I was
Texas
just about to say that. Yeah,
would love to be playing at night, but they're not. But they're still playing in a playoff game for the first time in history, so they will be rocking that place. In Miami, well, I'm going to hold back on that. They go to places like Florida State and so forth, but it's not like a week to week occurrence in the ACC playing at Wake Forest and Virginia. But the other thing would be that I just believe that Mike Elko is a better coach than Mario Cristobal. I just think there's not a huge comparison. Now, when you throw recruiting and building a program and all of it together, then we can have a debate. But as a game coach and a tactician, Mike Elko can coach circles around Mario Cristobal. So I think Texas A&M has those advantages. Miami looks like a more complete team and that they play more consistently. And I did a breakdown of these teams in terms of the statistics against common opponents. They both played Florida. They both played Notre Dame. They're pretty comparable in their games. They both won very close games against Notre Dame. A&M had to be on the road for that one, and they both won easily against Florida. Miami's was more of a dominant defensive effort, and there was more scoring in Texas A&M's game, but they also gave up points to DJ Lagway. What concerns me about A&M is that when you say you believe they've got the better quarterback, I think they have the better quarterback if he's playing at his best. I am almost positive. I'm going to throw out a stat line for Carson Beck, and I bet I come very close to his stat line for tomorrow. Let's say he goes 18 for 28 for 237 yards. That's what he's going to do most games. Now, Marcel Reed, I think, is a wild card. I just think he could have a great game. He could have a lousy game. He's kind of erratic.
He's not consistent. That's the
Yes,
problem with him.
exactly.
When he's at his best, he's really good, and when he's at his worst, well, he's not very good. Yeah. So I agree with everything you said there. Really, but I got one more question for you. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Do you think we should do away with conference championship games?
Oh, wow. Okay. So the way it's currently constituted, something needs to change. They need to do something about it. Either get rid of them, and I have no issue because I grew up this way with no conference championship games, and they award the regular season champion as the champion. And you know what? There might be a three-way tie. And you know what? We've got 3 conference champions. And you're going to have a lot of people under the age of like 30 who are going to go crazy and say, how can you have 3 conference champions? Well, we did it for like 100 years. So it's not the end of the world. And then have some other format set up that takes the bubble teams within each conference and plays them off. Maybe gives the top 2 seeds. So this is one example of something that people like, is to take the 3 seed and the 6 seed in the SEC and the Big Ten and take the 4 and the 5 and play them as kind of the final weekend of the season. Leave the season open, or maybe make that an extra game, and that's championship weekend, and force, instead of the best teams to be playing an extra game, force the teams that are on the bubble to play an extra game into the playoff. That would have to be vetted out because it wouldn't work all the time. But when the conference championship games were first implemented, of course, the SEC number 1 first in 1992, I thought it was brilliant. It was great. It was ahead of its time. It was needed. Obviously, the conferences at that point had expanded to 12 teams, and there was division play for the first time ever. And then the other conferences quickly jumped in, the Big 12 being the first one, and all that made total sense. And now we've gotten to a place, because of the expansion of the playoff, that the conference championship games no longer matter. It's almost, Hunter, like the conference championship participants in the game themselves, people get mad at and are all flustered, like we have this Duke situation. Well, the conference championship games were not, and the conference championship itself was not formulated to be the precursor to a playoff. It wasn't formulated to be a determining factor of a playoff. There was no playoff, of course, and all the conferences cared about was determining who is the champion. And the champion had everything to do with how well you play inside the conference. You can go 0-4 outside the conference, still be the conference champion, because all the conferences always determined, we're not going to penalize teams for losing non-conference games or reward them. We only care how good the team was within the conference. But now it's connected to the playoff, so it does matter how good the team is outside the conference and the conference games. But that's not how you should determine the conference championship. So it's screwed up, and it all needs to be addressed.
I agree, and I think the real problem with it is that it punishes teams that are going in the playoff. Because if you're, and it just forces them to play an extra game. And really, if you look at that game, I think the reason that Alabama lost the game to Georgia in the SEC championship was because they were looking ahead to the playoffs, and they were like, well, this really doesn't matter. So, not that it doesn't matter necessarily, but,
Why wouldn't Georgia be the one to think that? Because Alabama's playoff live was somewhat in jeopardy.
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I don't
What
know.
I didn't like, Hunter, was that, and I didn't have an answer for this, and this is the $1,000,000 question that everyone was asking, and so I was asked it like 50 times. Should the conference championship count against the loser? And my answer was, this is where the system doesn't work, because I cannot tell you that we can watch a game and say, okay, Team A won the conference championship. They need to be credited with the championship plus gain their benefits and the rewards of that, a bye in the first round. But we're going to ignore the loser in the game and totally turn a blind eye and not even evaluate their performance. Well, we evaluate the winning performance, and it's a conference championship game, and it's a very, very valuable data point. It's obviously against the best or one of the best teams on that team's schedule, so it needs to be evaluated. But if you go that route to the nth degree, that's not fair, because, as you well know, Alabama got exposed. And when I say exposed, they literally got exposed in not
Yeah, we
playing well
did.
in the game. But I mean, they were exposed to having to play another game that Notre Dame and Miami got to sit on their couch and not get exposed against a team as good as Georgia. Miami might have lost by 4 touchdowns. Who knows? But they didn't have to. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it, Mark. No matter what we do, somebody's going to be mad. So we can come up with any system. We might think me and you might agree that it's the perfect system. There's always going to be somebody out there that's going to criticize whatever the system is and however we decide to structure this whole thing. So the problem is there's really no perfect solution, and there's going to be drawbacks and positives to any sort of formulation that we come up with. But I do think that needs to be addressed, and I don't know what the answer is. I just know that it needs to be addressed so that teams that are not punished for having a good season. And you're right. It doesn't seem consistent to say, well, we're going to credit you, but we're not going to apply the same standard to the other team, to the losing team. So, yeah, that is a valid point.
Yeah. So, for example, Hunter, last year, the committee told us going into the conference championship weekend, we are not holding these results against the losers of the conference championship games. So, after the conference championship games on that Sunday, you know what? If I was Reese Davis or whomever got a chance to interview the committee chair, my first question would have been, did you watch the conference championship games? Well, of course, they would say yes. And I would say, why? You shouldn't have watched the games, because that is skewing your thoughts. That is clouding your thoughts, and you're supposed to not be taking this into consideration at all. So you shouldn't even watch the games. And then my second question, if they would have been thinking and been on their toes and said, no, we didn't watch the games, we didn't watch the conference championship games, my next question would have been, did you see the scores of the conference championship games? And if they would have said yes, I would again said, you shouldn't even seen the scores to the conference. You should have only known Georgia beat Alabama, Indiana beat Ohio State, or whatever the games were last year, of course, because that's all that mattered. You're telling us that they did not matter for the loser. You're not evaluating them. So you shouldn't have watched the games. You should even know what the scores are.
Right. Right. You bring up some very interesting points. I just am curious to see what happens going forward, because I, I don't know what Greg Sankey and the B-team commissioner does, and what they kind of lobby for in this offseason to make things a little bit more consistent and fair, I guess is what we're trying to achieve. And um, I love this sport, but at the same time, sometimes I don't think that we do things that make a whole lot of sense sometimes. So it's just and just like everything else in life, there's pros and cons to everything. So
Yeah.
um,
Well, it doesn't make sense because there's no commissioner or governing body to.
I think we should make you and Josh Pate co uh, co commissioners.
All right. I'm up for it. Sure.
I like. The reason I say that because I like the both of y'all. I think both of y'all do a good job. I think y'all both make a lot of sense on in how y'all talk about things and evaluate things, and so I respect both of y'all guys. That's why I say make y'all
Appreciate it.
commissioners.
Well, thank you, Hunter. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the win tonight.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll talk again after the next game.
Sounds good, Hunter. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Now, normally, I wouldn't take any other calls because we're 36 minutes over. But what is going on here? We've got an appearance from the man himself, Traveling Fools.
Ho, 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 ho. How we doing, man?
Besides being 37 minutes past when I'm itching to get out of here, but you got to show up. So do you know if this would have literally been anybody else aside from, I don't know who else, I would have just said, sorry, as I do most nights. Sorry.
Well, I'm not sure why that would be. What, you should just kick me to the curb any day of the week.
No, you're never calling. You never call. So
I never have much to say. I mean, you know what I mean.
To say you've got your team in the playoff, of course, tomorrow.
Well, right.
That's mighty exciting.
So I like the way we lined up. I like the way we lined up with Texas A&M. I think that is a good match for us. I think if we beat that, I would much rather play Ohio State than Indiana.
Okay.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Do you just have a feel or do you have a reason?
Well, you know me. I mean, have I ever been one to, give you the X's and O's?
Yeah,
I mean, you know me. I'm in a mastermind of all this stuff.
You've got a feel.
Well, watching the teams play, I watch all the games. You know that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like Ohio State and Miami have a much more past, more tradition, with playing each other. I think that'll be a bigger game, and I think Miami would show up bigger to that game than they would Indiana. But first, we got to get past, Texas A&M's cheer squad.
Yes, well, the cheer squad is mighty impressive. They are quite the, I don't know, the examples of masculinity, I guess.
Yeah, I would make bad jokes, but I'm on your channel right now, so I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not going to do it, but
depending on how bad, there's bad.
No, you know me. And, no, they'll be really bad.
Like corny or bad.
Yeah, you know me. Just leave it at that, Mark. Just leave it at that. Do not tempt me to make the joke.
As I like to tell our hosts when we bring them on board them, I say, okay, you can say some cuss words. That's fine. No streams of profanity. I don't want that.
Oh, come on. I've run many of your channels for years, and I wouldn't even say this on one that you gave me full reign. So, anyway, moving on. I think tomorrow's going to be an interesting game. I think if we get, I think we're going to win. And
I think so too.
Do you think we're going to win?
Yeah, I have picked Miami to win.
Okay. I think we will. I don't think if it comes to a shootout and to the end, I don't think we will. But I think Miami's gonna win this game. I think we'll probably lose to Ohio State if we make it past that, but I do think that we will probably beat Texas A&M tomorrow.
How excited were you to see that Miami was chosen for the playoffs?
I'm a realist. So I wasn't like, let me just jump out of my panties. Yeah, you know what I mean? Any of that kind of nonsense. I expected us not to, but I was glad because I actually thought we deserved it.
Sure.
But, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did too.
Yes, so I wasn't like over the moon excited because I kind of thought, Okay, so here's where I thought when the ACC was not going to get left out. How can they leave the ACC out of all that money? And you couldn't give it to Duke. You couldn't throw Duke in there. And they had to give somebody. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of dollars being there. You're one of the Power Four. They had to do something. When I saw Duke win that game, I was like, all right, we're in. We're in. There's no doubt in my mind we're in. Money does, as bad as it is, money does play a large role in everything that happens in our world. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. Money is the reason we're playing 12 teams.
Yeah.
It wasn't because somebody just thought, okay, we want to give other teams an opportunity just for the sake of competition. No, there's more games, therefore they can make more money.
And how long before it's 14 or 16?
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. So it won't be next year.
I don't think so. To give you a better educated guess, I would have to think through a few things. And, I know that the TV contracts can be changed, but they tend to, at the end of the contract, then readdress these things. But yeah, I think that they can still kind of manage that on the fly.
It'll be soon, though. I mean, it will be within 2 years, they will up it to another,
I believe so.
And so what do you think about Notre Dame? The fan reaction. What do you think about that?
I think that Notre Dame got caught in a situation where they are playing like one of the best teams in the country, but they just lost to the wrong teams, and they had the worst scheduling situation in which the team that they needed to beat was in direct competition for the spot. So that's the game that needed to be played in college football, and lucky for us it was. I understand their frustration, but it's not a direct argument. Like if Miami got left out, you guys had the fan base had a direct argument, direct 1-to-1, same record, we beat them, we should be in. Where for Notre Dame, it's more like, watch us play, look at how good we are. And we've proven this over the season that we're one of the best teams and we should be let in.
Well, beyond Miami. So here's my problem. Beyond Miami or Alabama or any of these teams, BYU or any of them, who should not be there? James Madison should not be there.
But
these teams,
yes,
they don't need to expand the playoff. They need to group of 5, have their own thing. They're never going to win the whole thing. It's a waste of time. If they weren't there, then you would see right now Notre Dame and BYU in this playoffs, and tomorrow would be fabulous.
Yeah, we would have some. Can you imagine Notre Dame and Oregon playing, for example?
Yes.
That would be a tremendous matchup. People would be excited about that. We'd have comments in the chat. Oregon and Notre Dame, they've never played, at least in my lifetime. And, you're talking about 2 very different brands, but 2 of the elite brands. And it would just be.
They could have BYU playing Notre Dame tomorrow night.
Yeah, it could be BYU, Notre Dame, whatever it turned out to be. Out of those 4 teams versus the 2 most likely slaughterings we're going to see.
Yeah, but we're wasting our time.
Yeah.
And we have Miami and, Texas A&M playing at noon tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time, at noon tomorrow. Then the rest of the day is shit. I mean, we have to wake up early in the morning. not early in the morning, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People on the West Coast, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, they got to
9
get
in
up.
the morning.
What the rest of the day is BS for college football fans.
Well, you
It's
know why
stupid.
that's the case.
Do what now?
Do you know why that's the case?
Well, of course, because I mean, obviously, the teams at the higher, this is, I'm assuming, but the teams at the higher echelon of the things get to more choose their times. I would append. That would be my thought. I mean, they're not going to put a West Coast team ranked at the highest saying, "Hey, you gotta go on at 9 o'clock in the morning."
Sure, that would not be. Yeah, they would not put Oregon on it, the noon game, because obviously they've got to play at least
it's 9.
Whatever the 3:30 is at the next time slot. But it's basically dictated by the NFL.
Okay.
It's not dictated by the NFL, but college football, they did the same thing last year. Their two best commodities in the first round were Notre Dame and Ohio State. So they played Notre Dame on Friday night, where they didn't compete against the NFL. They played Ohio State on Saturday night, where there was an NFL game ending, and they would be there to draw in the TV ratings. This weekend, it was Oklahoma and Alabama, so they put them on Friday night. Miami and Texas A&M is the best draw, which normally, if the day was free, they'd put them in prime time because that's the game that should be in prime time. But they just kept it away from the NFL. The NFL games are starting at like 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's lame. I mean, we want to see the good college football games. I mean, as a college football fan, that is me. But whatever. NFL. Some people like it.
That's college football being afraid of the NFL, and they should be, because it's just a much more popular sport.
I'm gonna guess it depends on which way you're coming from. But anyway, Mark, I just wanted to jump on here. I know you're about to close it down. I haven't talked to you all season long.
Yeah.
And miss you, brother. How you doing? What are you doing for Christmas?
What am I doing for Christmas? I am going to visit my kids for Christmas. I'm leaving on the 23rd. Going up north.
Oh man, you gotta leave that sunny place and go up north for Christmas.
I'm going up north for a white Christmas, and going to, at least in a sense, be introduced to my grandson, who has yet to be born, but who is in the womb.
Oh, I did not know that. Congratulations, man. Look at you smile when you say that, man.
Yes.
That is awesome, man. Congratulations, brother.
My son threw me on FaceTime a couple weeks ago, and he had a baseball hat on that said "Dad." And so I said, you trying to tell me something here? Yeah.
Oh, man, that is absolutely awesome, man. You got a good family, man. You know what I mean? I've known you for a long time, and that's super cool, man. God bless you. God bless you. And God bless that beautiful little baby.
Yes, and we've made ourselves some nice New Year's. I'll be coming back like on the 29th and made some nice New Year's Eve plans too. So I expect to have a big time on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So,
all right, well, there you go. Well, Mark, I'm going to get out of here, but I'm going to say go Canes. I want to meet your Buckeyes. If that happens, I will call back in before that game. I will talk to you about that game. If not, either way, I'll talk to you. But Merry Christmas, man. Love you, brother. Always been a good friend of mine. So I always support you. I'm still here, lurking in the background, modding the channel. I still watch out for all the weird shit. But God bless you. God bless that new little grandbaby. Go Canes, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. I'll let you close your stream down. Thanks a lot for having me on.
God bless you, Brandon. Thank you so much for calling. It was a treat.
Yep, brother. All right. Love you, man. Love all you guys out there. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
All right. The one and only Traveling Fool stopping by. That was good. Yes. Thank you to Real. Merry Christmas to everyone. I shouldn't have let that out. Yeah, I'm officially an old man. I had somebody who I won't name that I was having dinner with the other night, and they said, I'm not going to express my age, but they said, your hair's still dark. I've never met anyone who's your age who still has dark hair. You sure you don't dye that hair? No, I don't dye my hair. I said, what can I say? I'll take it. It's going to be gray one of these days. It will be gray one of these days. Roll Tide for Life. Thank you so much for all the kind compliments and the comments that you have made in the chat and urging people to subscribe to the channel. That's very nice of you. Ralph, Merry Christmas to you and everyone else. Thank you, everyone, for your congratulations. Yes, wasn't too long ago that seemed like his dad was just a baby. So yes, it goes by fast for sure. Well, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We got 3 games on Saturday. I plan on watching all 3 games, or I plan on watching the entirety of the first game, and like about 28-0 is going to be my over under on watching the rest of the game. That's going to kind of be my out. Ole Miss is up 28-0 at the half. It's going to be like, okay. And I'm not saying I expect that. I actually expect Tulane to hang in the game. And then this Oregon James Madison game, the same thing. I'm going to have to monitor the second half, or you know what? If it's 45-7 in the third quarter, we are not waiting for that game to be over. We'll be here once the game becomes basically over, not officially over, but we will jump on here. So that might be in the second quarter. If Oregon's up 35-3 in the second quarter, we may just jump on and say, let's get this thing going. So we do appreciate you being here, everyone, and we will see you on a Saturday night. Enjoy the playoff football.